What's up, guys? This is the first of hopefully many Sport Universe shows. There's probably going to be a different name. Maybe even I'll title this a different name when I actually edit it. But for now, I'm calling it the Sport Universe show. It's kind of comparable, I guess you can compare it to Sports Center from ESPN, something like that, where I basically report on the news, give my opinions on things, maybe throw in a few highlights here and there. I don't really know how it's going to all pan out from now and into the future, but for now, this is what it is, I guess. So let's hop right into baseball. So the first thing that happened this week was baseball's economic proposal that basically laid out how baseball wants to go about paying players during the shortened season. This economic proposal created quite a bit of controversy because baseball had already agreed with these players to have prorated salaries. So these players wouldn't be getting paid for a 162 game season, as obviously they wouldn't be playing 162 games, but instead would be playing a smaller number, I guess, is the way you could refer to it. So they would be getting paid based off games they played. And that already took a chunk of money out of players' pockets. But that had been agreed upon. However, as the pandemic got worse and had a bigger impact on, you could call it baseball's economics or financials, they realized that they don't have the money to pay these players in terms of individual teams and things like that. So baseball laid out this economic proposal where players, upper echelon players who are getting paid a lot of money would lose a big percentage of their contracts compared to players that aren't getting paid as much would receive a smaller percentage of their contract, not as big of a percentage taken away as the bigger players. So basically how the scale worked, from $500,000 to $1 million for this season, those players would be getting paid 72.5% of their contracts, while on the other end, players from $20 million and above would be getting paid only 20% of their contract. Obviously a big difference, but an important takeaway here is that the players that would be getting hurt the most by this are some of the baseball's biggest stars, creating another controversy inside of this already controversy. These players who represent baseball aren't happy right now, and that just poses an even bigger threat to baseball's future. Some of the minor details that I think are important to highlight in this, it was an economic proposal, but they did lay out specific things, like it's going to be an 82-game season. They hope to start in early July, and there'll be a 21-day spring training. So those are some important details that I think need to be highlighted upon. One thing to take into account is they want to start in early July. However, baseball, really out of all the leagues, has had the most trouble coming to an agreement about how to a restart plan for the corona after coming back from the coronavirus. The further that these arguments go, the more pushback the baseball season is going to be, which isn't what baseball fans want or baseball players in general. Next thing that I want to talk about is some reactions to it. The biggest one coming from Scott Boras, who is a famous agent in baseball and really the sports world. Everyone knows his name. He represents some of the biggest athletes in baseball, from Mike Trout to Garrett Cole and a lot of others. He had some interesting comments to say about this whole issue. It's reported that he's been telling his clients that they do not need to bail out the owners or the front offices. It's the owners' role in this. He believes that the owners have to be the ones to pay these players the prorated salaries, even if baseball doesn't have enough money for that. They can use the profits from previous seasons to pay these players. He's been telling his players that there's no reason for them to have to give up an even larger chunk of their contracts because they're the ones that keeps baseball running. They should be in the driver's seat in these negotiations, according to him, and not the other way around. And last thing, baseball-wise, that I want to talk about is hundreds of minor leaguers and personnel in the minor leagues are being cut and laid off simply because there's expected not to be a minor league season for 2020. I'm talking baseball. In the last few days, hundreds have been laid off, hundreds have been cut, and that's expected to continue for the next few days. I mean, the reason is plain and simple. These money-troubled teams don't have the money to pay these minor leaguers that they don't think are going to have an impact for them next season. There's no reason for there to be personnel like trainers and things like that in their budget, because simply they're not going to have a role for the team, and baseball needs the money. So why pay people that they don't need to be paying? So that's creating a lot of issues for minor leaguers and things like that, and many minor leaguers are worried about what their future holds for them. All right, let's hop into basketball. The news for this week in basketball was minimal, but it holds great importance to the future of basketball for the 2020 season. Basically what the news is, owners are expected to agree to Adam Silver's restart plan this coming Thursday. Basically what the plan is, not all the details are out, nor are they all clear, but what's being reported is that 22 of the 30 NBA teams would be housed in ESPN's Wide World of Sports complex in Disney, Orlando, and they would play some regular season games, then play play-in tournament, I guess you could call it. Not really sure if the regular season and play-in tournaments are kind of going to be combined. Not really sure how that's going to be worked out, and then it would go straight to playoffs. Obviously, there being 22 of 30 teams, 11 teams from each conference, so probably definitely the top 11 teams. But Adam Silver, for this plan to go through, needs 3/4 of the owners to agree to this restart plan, and it's expected that that'll be the case, making NBA the second of the 4 big leagues, excluding football because they already agreed to that. But it's kind of different to have a restart plan, and that's pretty exciting.
Next thing I want to talk about is football. So, in the football world, there is some little news, nothing major. First off, Joe Flacco, who recently signed with the Jets as a backup role, basically made clear that he is totally accepting of his current role for the Jets, which is a backup role to teach Sam Darnold the ins and outs of football, make him a better player, make him a better quarterback, make him a better leader. And he totally understands that role. However, in an interview, he did say that he still considers himself a starter and still considers that he could be a starter somewhere. He hopes someday down the road that he gets that role again, but for now, he's perfectly fine working with Sam Darnold.
The next thing I want to talk about is San Francisco 49ers, George Kittle, tight end. He's in his last season of his rookie contract, so that means he's either going to become a free agent after this season or he's going to have an extension with the 49ers. It had been reported that the 49ers and George Kittle were going to start working out a deal because obviously he had such a big role in the 49ers making it to the Super Bowl last season. However, talks haven't really come into anything because of George Kittle's wants. He wants not only to be the highest paid tight end, but he's not even thinking tight end money. He's thinking maybe wide receiver money. Right now, Austin Hooper is the highest paid tight end at $42 million for 4 years that he just signed with the Browns this offseason, and George Kittle's hoping for more than that. So this next segment, I guess, the last segment, is called the Opinion Corner, where I basically lay out my opinions from this week's news and basically go into them, if I have any opinions from week to week. But this week I do have some opinions. First off, I want to talk about Scott Boras. I think what he's saying is kind of out of line. I think probably the biggest takeaway for me is you have to realize that Scott Boras is an agent. His job is to get money for these players, and not only is it to get money for these players, but to get money for himself. He takes a chunk of the contracts that these players agree upon. So if his players are a large part, the $20 million and above, if those players don't get the $20 million and above, he's going to be losing a significant amount of money. So the way that he's been trying to say his things is to be on the good side of fans, saying that it's not fair to the players. But in all honesty, it's not fair to him, in his view. He wants a significant amount of money, but a significant amount of money is about to be lost for him because simply baseball can't pay it. And I think it's unfair for him to really be saying the things he's saying. And he should really, as an agent, allow the players and the Players Association to come to their own opinion and not put outside reasoning into it all, as he's been calling his clients and telling them these things, which has been reported on him a lot.
The next opinion that I want to talk about is more baseball in general. Not only Scott Boras, really this is to the Players Association. I think they have to realize that they're going to be fine if they get more money taken off their contracts. They can live comfortably with the amount of money they're going to get. Even if it's a much smaller percentage than they're going to get, if they don't agree to anything, there's not going to be a 2020 season. 2020 is going to be a bust. They're not going to be paid. That's not good for anyone. Everyone wants baseball to be back. Even though it's a business and you try to get the most money possible, do you want there to be no 2020 season? And I guess that goes for the other side too. MLB in general, you have to be cognizant that these players are the ones that get you the money, and you have to be fair to them. And that's why I said, and that's why a lot of people think, that this is going to be a back and forth that's going to take a while. However, the longer it takes, the longer and less of a 2020 season there is, which no one wants.
Finally, what I want to talk about is my opinions on the NBA. That's kind of like a broad statement, but what I really want to talk about is I think that the NBA has done the best out of any league at combating this coronavirus pandemic and how to deal with it. I don't know if that's a comment on Adam Silver's leadership qualities or if there's just another reason that the NBA can come to agreements really quickly, especially compared to baseball. They seem to have had no trouble coming to agreements, coming to decisions about how to go into the future with playing basketball. And it seems to be paying fruition as when Thursday comes, basketball seems to be back on, which is really exciting, unless something happens that's not expected. And even though the details aren't clear, I'm hopeful and positive that the NBA will make the sport come back and be one of the better sports to combat this coronavirus pandemic issue. All right, with that, that ends this week's show. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know what you thought of this in the comments below. If you have any comments, things like that, things that I should have touched upon, opinions that you have on what I said.
Other than that, sports are our universe.